Today's video is sponsored by Xperia. The Xperia 5 Mark III is making its debut here in the US, and in today's video, I'll give you a first look at this new device. As I've done with my previous Xperia videos, I'll be focusing on the photography and videography features of this device, along with my general impressions after having it here for a few days. As I'm sure you know by now, the Xperia team has been busy this year with the release of some interesting smartphones like the Xperia Pro, Xperia 1 Mark III, and the Xperia Pro I. With the Xperia 5 Mark III, you get some interesting features like the ones that you'd find on those devices, but in a smaller and lighter form factor. It has a 6.1-inch HDR OLED display with 120 Hz refresh rate, which I'm really excited to see becoming more of a standard with smartphones. It makes the process of browsing the web, playing mobile games, and viewing content in general that much more enjoyable. They also packed a high-end Snapdragon 888 CPU that should help your app start up quickly and perform great overall. Now, the device itself has a smooth, glass-like texture with rounded edges, and get this, no notch for the front camera. Looking at the rest of the device, you'll find a SIM and micro SD card tray that supports up to 1 TB cards and can be removed without any special tools. Up top, you have a headphone jack so you can enjoy all of the high-resolution audio features that it provides. On the side, you have your volume rocker, a power switch with a built-in fingerprint reader, a Google Assistant button, and a dedicated shutter button that you can use to take photos and videos using their built-in app. Finally, on the bottom, you have your USB-C port to charge your device. With all of the nerdy tech stuff out of the way, let's talk about the photo and video features. Similar to the Xperia 1 Mark III, you have 3 different lenses that give you access to 4 different focal lengths. The first is a 16mm f2.2 lens. Just below that, you'll find a 24mm f1.7 lens. And then we have something that you don't see outside of the Xperia 1 Mark III, which is an optical telephoto lens that allows you to switch between a 70mm f2.3 lens and a 105mm f2.8 lens. All of these are at 12 megapixels and offer Sony's class-leading autofocus thanks to the inclusion of dual phase detect autofocus sensors. These lenses offer Zeiss optics with their T-Star coating that help reduce reflections and improve the contrast in your images. Speaking of images, the Xperia 5 Mark III has their Photo Pro app, which can give you the typical smartphone camera experience where it does everything for you and it gives you a really nice looking image. Or you can use this like their Sony Alpha cameras and utilize full manual controls. The layout changes when you go into that professional mode, yet all of your settings are quick and easy to access and adjust to your heart's content. To give you a quick tour of those settings from left to right, you have your mode selector, where you can switch between the basic, automatic, and manual settings. In the menu, you could adjust your file format, including access to taking your images in RAW, RAW and JPEG, or just JPEG alone. Next up, you could select your aspect ratio, which you'll want to choose based on where your images will ultimately end up. I typically leave mine at a 4:3 aspect ratio, since that gives me the highest resolution, and I could always crop those images later on in post. Next up, you could select your drive mode, going from single shot up to as high as 20 frames per second continuous, and with autofocus and auto exposure included. We'll skip on over to the exposure color settings, where you could choose your metering mode, adjust your flash settings, as well as enabling or disabling auto HDR and the soft skin effect. Next up, we have our focus settings, where you could choose a focus mode, focus area, switch between white and red for the focus area color, and enable face and eye autofocus, which works for both humans and animals, just like their high-end Alpha series cameras. Lastly, you have the setup menu, where you could adjust other parameters for your camera, along with choosing whether you want your images saved internally or on that micro SD card that we talked about earlier. Going back to the main interface, you could select your lens, and then over on the right side of the screen, you can quickly adjust your shutter speed and access your drive modes and all of the other settings that we talked about from the menu. I took the phone around for the day and took some images using all of the various lenses that it has available. Here's a gallery for you to check out, along with the EXIF details for each shot. Similar to the Xperia 1 Mark III, this device gives you excellent looking photos with the flexibility to process them later on using whatever editor that you like. But now let's take a look at some of the video features. You can access your basic video features within the Photo app by clicking on the movie camera icon. Here you can quickly hit record to start taking a video, and of course you could easily switch between the various lenses by tapping on the on-screen buttons. For video, you can use the slow motion feature, which kind of works similar to the S&Q mode that you would find on the Sony Alpha lineup of cameras. It's really simple. You just hit record, and when the video is done, it will automatically play back in slow motion. Moving right along, the Xperia 5 Mark III gives you what I think is one of the coolest features for mobile creators, and that is the Cinematography Pro app. Here you can make a variety of adjustments and really customize your video shooting experience. You can select resolutions up to 4K at 120 frames per second, along with being able to use their high-end Sony Venice color science. Here's a short montage of clips that I shot using the app for you to check out. The blend of high-end features offered in the Xperia 5 Mark III within the smaller form factor is one that I think a lot of people will find compelling. I'll be doing some more videos featuring these and other Xperia devices here on my channel, so if you have any specific questions, please leave them for me in the comment section below. Be sure to leave a like if you found the video helpful, and of course subscribe to be notified when that new content goes up. While this was the latest in the lineup of Xperia phones here in the US, I have a bunch of videos on some of the other Xperia devices that I put together in a playlist for you to check out. Click the link that you see here on the screen, and I'll see you there.